We welcome you all to the International Virtual Faculty Development Program, Research Methodology in Humanities, Social Sciences, and Legal Studies. Today is day two. This program is organized by the Shillong Law College in collaboration with Cape Comorin Trust India. We have today our esteemed speaker, Dr. Sedna Zulfikar bin Tahir. He is the Director of the Research and Community Services of Universitas Irkra Buru, Indonesia. His areas of interest and research include teaching media, TEFL, Arabic and linguistics, and multilingual education. Dr. Sedna graduated his master's and doctoral degree from the State University of Makassar in English Education Department, and he did a short-term course at the Northern Illinois University, USA. Dr. Sedna has published many books and many articles in TEFL, ICT, in language learning, and multilingual teaching and learning. He is also a member of Asia TEFL, Asia EFL, International Forum of Researchers in Education, and ADRI. Dr. Sedna is a reviewer and editor in local and international journals. We welcome you, sir, today to our second day of the FDP program. We are very honored to have you here, and we hand over the session to you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, the chairperson, Sarah Harkongo. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Should I start?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, thank you very much for the chairperson and also for all participants who attend this lecture today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to be here to share a little about the research method. And allow me, I am Saidna Zulfikar bin Tahir, a director of the Research and Community Service of the Universitas Irkra Buru in Indonesia, to share my PowerPoint, my material today about the multi-method approach in social sciences. Wait a minute, I will share my PowerPoint. Wait, I'm looking for my... Okay. Well, my material today about the multi-method approach in social sciences research. As the beginning of my lecturing today, I will explain a little bit about the research and research method. Because when we talk about research method, of course, it is a scientific way or scientific method used to solve the problem that faced by our community or ourselves in our community. The research method, of course, it aims to find out or to know or to describe or to explore, investigate, and also to examine and to design and also to develop something that could be a solution to our problem in our life. When we try to make research, of course, we can conceptualize between phenomena. It means that what is in our mind or our idea, and also the phenomena, it is the reality that occur in our social life. Of course, when we try to research something, we have to find the problem or the case. Sometimes we look at the case in the different way because we stand in the other position between us. To simplify this explanation, I will use what stated by Aristotle. He said that the reality is merely an illusion. Sometimes we judge a case or the problem that it is right, but unfortunately, in the other side, what we judge by the right thing is incorrect or it's false. It is because we don't realize the positions of our stand. To simplify this, I will illustrate by using the picture of a pretty woman. Because I'm a man, of course, I will simplify by illustrate with a pretty woman, pretty girl picture. Uh, when I was in front of when I was in front of the girl, then I judge that the woman or the girl passed in front of me is beautiful. Yeah, that is right because my position is in front of the girl. When I was behind the girl, then she passed in front of me, and I judged that the girl who passed in front of me, even I saw from behind, I judged her as a beautiful woman or a pretty girl because my position is viewing or looking from back side. It's also when I see the woman from the right side or the left side, then I judge that the woman passed in front of me is a pretty woman because I see or I look at the girl from the left or the right side. It means that to see the truth of the case or the problem that occur in our life, we should look at the whole sides of the woman so we can judge that the woman is beautiful. Even we already use all the side. We already see the girl from all side, whole side comprehensively. There is also called by inner beauty that we can measure it. So many things that could be considered, could be seen when we judge some case or some problems that occur in our life. Because we don't realize our position, it's called by paradigm words. What we see, the way of we see or look at some objects, it's called by paradigm, or it's called also by word view, the way of our view, the way of we look at the problem or we look at the case. In research method, also we have some paradigms that we have to realize when we are in positivism or post-positivism or pragmatism or constructivism. Here I divide it into four paradigms that usually we use in research method. The positivism is an old one, or we can call it also by the quantitative method. It is the old method used to measure or to correlate between the phenomena and between the variables, and we can judge that is right, the right things based on the quantity. So it is the positivism. While the post-positivism, they don't believe that the quantity is the right things, but you have to look what happened behind the quantity or the number. So positivism, they did not trust about the quantity or the number. So they have to investigate in depth study what meaning behind the number or the quantity. And sometimes we call post-positivism by qualitative method, while pragmatism It is combined between positivism and post-positivism. So the research could be impact or utilized if it is have the impact in the reality of our life. So they try to combine between positivism or quantitative method and post-positivism or qualitative method. And also there is a one paradigm is constructivism that try to build something in giving the solution for our life, and sometimes we call by research and development or R&D. So but sometimes the constructivism also could be post-positivism. For instance, when we conducted grounded theory, when we conducted grounded theory method from with a qualitative method, we use qualitative method using the design of grounded theory. It's also try to constructivize the phenomena. So this is the these all the paradigm used in our research. So when we try to research, we have to realize what is our positions. Are we in positivism or post-positivism, or we are pragmatism, or we are constructivism? So as I illustrate just now about the beautiful or the pretty woman, so we have to see the case, we have to see the problem from the whole side. It's called by multi-method. Sometimes Gary Goetz called it by integrated method. But Brewer and Hunter 2005 said that this called by multi-method. Integrated method could be pragmatism. It means using mixed method. Integrated method also could be multi-method. But in here, we will discuss about what mentioned by Brewer and Hunter about multi-method, that is a set of beliefs concerning how to research scientifically using more than two methods, more than two approaches. In pragmatism such as mixed method, we combine between two methods, only two methods. And in integrated method, sometimes that they call it by multi-method qualitative or multi-method quantitative. It's called by integrated method. It means that when we try to combine between more than two method in qualitative method, it calls by multi-method qualitative or integrated qualitative. When we use two or more than two method in quantitative research, so it's called by multi-method quantitative. But multi-method here means that we try to combine even quantitative or qualitative or source of data. We can combine that. We can combine some of technique in analyzing the data. We can combine between some more than two technique in analyzing our data. So multi-method is general more than the integrated method. Yeah, this is the multi-method that stated by Brewer and Hunter. So when we conduct multi-method approach, it is of course entailing the application of more than two sources of data or research method to investigate research question. So we can apply or employ more than two approaches such as quantitative or qualitative method. What is called by multi-method is a strategy that could be applied using many methods, more than two methods. such as theoretical research or library research and empirical research, such as quantitative and qualitative research. That is called by multi-method. So we can combine between two or more than two approaches or more than two methods. So we can combine between case study, survey, and experimental research in our study in our multi-method. And also we can apply cross-sectional or critical research or ethnography or longitudinal research. We can combine more than two method. We can combine more than two data analysis, data collecting and data analysis. We can combine between more than two technique in analyzing our data. But when we conduct a research using multi-method, we have to pay full our attention that multi-method is a large scale of the study. If you only study or research about a small problem, we don't need to use multi-method. It means that multi-method should be large scale of the study and need more than 3 or 5 years. So if we conduct only 1 year in a small cases, we don't need to use the multi-method approach. It means that when we try to apply or employ multi-method in our study, we have to state the reason for employing the multi-method. If our reason is irrational, could not be accepted, so we can try another method, or we can simplify our method by using one method. For instance, we use only quantitative study or we use only qualitative study, because sometimes the students or the researcher, when they conducted a study, for instance, the survey research, then they said or they mentioned that this study applied mixed method research using concurrent design or sequential design. Perhaps it is no need to use the mixed method or multi-method, because the research problem is only to find out the correlation and also to see the society response and to observe the society behavior. So it is no need to conduct mixed method or multi-method design, because it is enough to conduct survey design by using longitudinal survey or panel survey. Because in survey design there are 3 survey. Cross-sectional survey, it means that we can collect the data in one period. And then longitudinal survey, it means that we can collect the data in one period, and then we try to observe and interview the respondent about their behavior, and also they respond to do some variable. Or perhaps we can apply also panel survey. It is long survey. It means that we can distribute our questionnaire, and then we try to observe and interview the respondent. And in the next month, we came with the same questionnaire, and we distribute our questionnaire to the participant or to the subject of our study. And then we observe and interview again to see their response and their behavior. And perhaps we can conduct in 3 times to distribute the same questionnaire in the 3 times, and then we observe and interview about their behavior and respond. So, and after all, we can discuss about the quantitative and qualitative, but it is not the mixed method. It is only the panel survey or longitudinal survey. So, when we try to use multi-method, it is also the same in when we conduct mixed method. We have to say our reason for employing multi-method or mixed method. When the reason is irrational, so the proposal we try to research it is rejected because irrational. Our reason for using this multi-method is irrational. So when we conduct this multi-method, we have to mention clearly what our reason for using the multi-method. Because this is basically multi-method is a large scale study and need more than 3 years. So this is the basic principle of multi-method. When we conduct this multi-method, so we have to consider that our reason, what is our reason behind the multi-method, behind our objective for using this multi-method approach. So when we try to, when you back to John Brewer and Albert Hunter book, of course, you can distinguish or differentiate between what called by mixed method and integrated method and multi-method. Here, I will explain again that mixed method is only used to methods such as quantitative or qualitative method, while integrated method, it means that we can combine between 2 or more than 2 methods in one area, perhaps in quantitative or qualitative. While multi-method, we can combine more than 2 approaches or method or data collecting, data analysis technique in multi-method. Okay, in conducting multi-method research design, so sometimes there is a problem in sampling and collecting and analyzing technique because it's called by multi-method, so all the sampling technique, also data collecting and data analysis must be multi-page sampling, multi-page data collecting, multi-page data analysis. It means that the sampling technique based on the pace, each pace of multi-method should be used the particular sampling technique. For instance, here, when I conduct a research, when I like to research about multilingual teaching and learning in Indonesia, and I try to use multi-method design using qualitative, quantitative research and development or R&D, and then the last phase is evaluation method. So I will state that perhaps I will state that multilingual teaching and learning in Indonesia is the new things. There is no studies before about the multilingual teaching and learning, perhaps because this is the new thing. It is not occurred in Indonesia before, so we have to investigate the case before, and then perhaps we try to measure the effect of what we design, the small design, or we try to apply another method, or we try to adapt what the method, some method from bilingual method, for instance, immersion bilingual we use in multilingual in Indonesia, something new in Indonesia. So I have to use quantitative method first, perhaps quantitative method to investigate the real case in Indonesia. What happened in the various language in Indonesia? Is those languages in Indonesia used in the classroom, in the school, or in the students' environment, or in only in some places or in special occasion? If the multilingual, perhaps Indonesian language and then Indonesian local languages, because Indonesia is many languages. So we have to investigate, are those languages used in everyday communication by students in their school or their environment or in their house or not? If they do not use the languages in their communication, so we have to investigate in depthly about this case and then try to correlate between the variable. For instance, some students use in the house only. Some students use in the schools only. Some students use in the market only. So we have to correlate between those three locations and then try to make some, or by adapting bilingual or another method, we know. But when we try to implement the multilingual, so we have to adapt in bilingual method. For instance, we use immersion. We try to implement immersion method in multilingual teaching and learning in Indonesia. So after that, then I try to examine, is the immersion is good to implement the multilingual teaching or learning or not. If it is not sufficient, it is not good to implement multilingual, so I will try another method, for instance, pull out multilingual, or another method from bilingual teaching and learning. And so, and then after quantitative, I will conduct research and development. For instance, by using 4D, design, define, design, develop, and disseminate, or perhaps using ADDI model or Assure model or another model from research and development. But try to use a simple one, that is the ADDI model or 4D model. So I conduct ADDI model. So in ADDI model, of course, the first step in ADDI model is analyzing. I use perhaps a questionnaire to know the students, teacher, perhaps the stakeholder needs in implementing the multilingual. So I will distribute the questionnaire to know their response, and also the government response, the government planning, and the school planning. All that things should be known by the researcher, and then try to design the model, the appropriate model for implementing the multilingual teaching and learning in Indonesia, and then try to develop the materials such as syllabus or lesson plan and course book or teacher guidebook, or what they assess, how to assess the students' competence in multilingual. So I'll try to develop, and then of course try to implement it, the design or the developed material that I already developed in a small field testing, and then the medium field testing, and in the large field testing to know the impact and also the accessibility of the material that developed. And then in the last things, I use evaluation method to evaluate all those steps in designing or in developing multilingual teaching and learning in Indonesia. So try to when try to use the respondent, so perhaps we use multipage sampling. Multipage sampling, it means that we can use probability or non-probability sampling, or also we can use multi-stage sampling. Some friends of mine asked me about what called by multi-page sampling. Multi-page sampling, it means that we select our sample from our population based on the pace of our research. Perhaps quantitative. When I conducted quantitative studies, so multi-page sampling used in quantitative, perhaps I will use multi-stage sampling from the bigger to the small group that I will use them as my respondent or my subject of the study. And in quantitative study, perhaps I will use purposive sampling technique, or perhaps I will use snowball sampling. And in research and development, also I will distribute based on the step of the research. For instance, when I conduct the need analysis and situational analysis of the students, teacher, and stakeholder, and also the government, so I will divide it: how many students, how many teachers, how many stakeholders, and how many government in this field. For instance, the Ministry of Education, how many samples that I will use from the government. And also when I try to conduct field study in small field.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
The slides are not changing. We are seeing the first slide, multi-method approach in social science.
Yeah, I still explain about this slide, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Sorry, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So in research and development, so when implementing the small field test, I use how many sample, how many subject, and in medium field test, I will use a bigger than small, and then in the large field testing, I will use perhaps 3 schools or perhaps 5 schools. Yeah, this is the multi-page sampling. That means we select the sample based on the pace of our study. And also in collecting our data, so we can apply or employ testing such as oral testing or written testing, and we can use questionnaire, interview, field note, and also documentation. So when we use quantitative, perhaps a qualitative study, perhaps we use observation list or interview, and also we can use testing in quantitative perhaps, and also we can use questionnaire in R&D, and in field testing we use test, of course, test to see the student competence in language competence in language. So we can combine some of the data collecting technique based on the pace of our study. And also data analysis, so uh, we can we can analyze our data, such qualitative and quantitative. Perhaps in quantitative we can use what called by SPSS, or we use some formula in analyzing our data, and perhaps also we can use qualitative using perhaps by displaying our data and those, and then we try to reduce our data and how to drawing our conclusion. So in in multi-method background of our study, of course, beside we have to state, we have to mention the reason for using our multi-method. We have to use also, or we could apply what background model, such as deficiencies model of the background and also phenomenal model of the background. So in our background of the study, we describe deficiency and phenomenal combined between two of those model. Yeah, and in presenting the data in our finding and discussion, also based on the thesis, and by presenting the data based on our pace of the study. Uh, Here I will highlight again that multi-method is a big or large scale of the study, more than 3 years of conducting this multi-method. So you have to do this method pace by pace. Yeah, I think that's all my short presentation about the multi-method approaches in social sciences research, and I hope this short presentation of me could give some benefit and some new understanding about how to conduct multi-method research. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much. And I back to the chairperson. Thank you. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think that's all my presentation, ma'am. It is a short presentation about the multi-method and a short explanation about how conducting multi-method. Yeah, I think that's all, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Yes.
much, sir. We appreciate your presence here today with us. Your presentation was very informative, very educational. It's a new topic for us as well, so we appreciate you. Um, as you have said, sir, that you've introduced to us the various methods of analyzing our data, and in our approaches, we can combine more than two methods. And you've given us examples such as theoretical library method, quantitative and qualitative methods. And in your lecture, you've also shared with us that in multimedia approach, it should be adapted in a large scale of study, which includes many years of study, and that we have the mixed method and as well as the integrated method. And in mixed method, we have the qualitative and the quantitative method. And in integrated, we can use more than two methods, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, sir? Both the qualitative and the quantitative method. So we thank you so much, sir, for sparing your time with us today. And if any of the participants have any questions, you can unmute and ask, sir, or you can put your questions in the chat box. Check the chat box. I believe, sir, that everyone is very satisfied with your presentation and your lecture today. We thank you again so much, sir, on behalf of the Shillong Law College and Kate Cormoran Trust India. Thank you for being here with us today, sir.